What the Sam Hill's going on here?
The Rewatch Podcast presents the Lois and Clark Rewatch, dedicated to the series Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman on ABC. Join us each week as we investigate the origins of the Man of Steel and uncover crime in Metropolis. Send your feedback to the Rewatch Podcast at gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Rewatch Podcast or follow us on Twitter at Rewatch Pod.
Oh, hey! Let's get back to it.
And welcome back to the Rewatch Podcast and our Lois and Clark Rewatch. I'm Cory.
And I'm Commander William T. Riker, reporting from the year 1995. Lost in time after an incident with the Guardian of Forever. Forced to survive by making my living as a voice actor. By hosting pseudo-reality shows like Alien Autopsy, Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, and even playing such celebrated parts as Man in Waiting Room and Man in Toy Office, and the ever-popular and award-winning Uncredited. I fear if my shipmates do not come soon, I may be forced into accepting a role on a show about a flying superhero called Superman, in which I'll be having to play an over-the-top, campy villain. I pray help arrives before too long. Riker out.
Well, I'm glad you hit number 2.
Thank you, number 1.
Engage. And anybody who's not a Trekkie is lost.
Yeah, they're like, what the hell is going on?
Yes, well, thank you for joining us, everyone. We're here discussing 2 more episodes of Lois and Clark, and this week's headline reads, Just Don't Tug. Just don't do it.
It's good, sound medical advice.
Yeah.
My doctor said, just don't tug on it. What's wrong with you?
You'll get hairy palms and you'll go blind.
Exactly.
We're discussing Just Say Noah and Don't Tug on Superman's cape. So let's get straight into it. Episode 1 today, Just Say Noah, was written by Brad Buckner and Eugenie Russ-Lemming and directed by David Jackson. And this originally aired October 22nd of 1995.
Mom, every time you guys visit me, you bring me enough food for the winter.
Well, that's what we do, honey. Take care of our boy with his favorite food, good advice, and unconditional support. It's no big deal.
I wish the rest of the world worked that way. I mean, a guy makes one, admittedly, big mistake, and bam, the door slams closed in his face, and the Supreme Court is not hearing any appeals.
Trouble with Lois, huh?
Remember that great idea I had about breaking up with Lois because being close to me put her at risk?
Yeah, we were afraid that wouldn't sit too well.
I mean, don't you think she's sort of making a mountain out of a molehill here?
Well, frankly, Clark, I have to go with Lois on this one.
Dad?
I have to go with your mother.
It's not supposed to work like this. You guys are my parents. You're supposed to side with me.
Well, we do take your side in the big picture. We want you to be happy, and Lois makes you happy. Unless you make her unhappy, and then she makes you unhappy, and that makes us unhappy.
Son, love and marriage are a partnership. Both people are equal in that partnership. Bottom line, they make their decisions together.
So what are you saying? I should go crawling back on my hands and knees?
No, honey. Fly back. It's faster.
When a pair of Lois's friends go missing, she wants to investigate, but Perry balks until her friends turn up on a TV special highlighting a relationship guru named Larry Smiley, a guru that Perry himself has studied under along with his wife Alice. Much to their chagrin, given their current unsure relationship, Perry sends Lois and Clark undercover as husband and wife to find out what happened to her friends. While there, they manage to secure the cabin that Lois's friends stayed at and end up finding a clue using Clark's powers that suggests the pair had a meeting with someone named Kathy. Lois follows up on the lead, but Kathy shies away from Lois, saying she doesn't know her friends. When Kathy later ends up dead, Lois and Clark find a piece of paper torn from a book on her, written in an ancient language that Lois suggests Clark take to Star to see if she can read it. Meanwhile, Perry and Alice have seemingly disappeared from life, having been abducted by Larry Smiley's crew. Larry reveals his plan to flood the Earth with a special storm-making machine and to put his chosen followers in suspended animation to survive the flood aboard his huge ark, all of which he received from instructions from God via a special red silent telephone. Indeed, he has already placed Lois's friends, Alice, and countless others who were all all chosen for their abilities and how they might contribute in a fresh new world into special cocoons. Jimmy, worrying about a missing Perry, shows up, and together he and Lois discover the cocoons, but while trying to hide, they are found out and captured. At Star's apartment, she has managed to channel an ancient spirit who takes over Star's body and reads the passes for Clark, revealing Smiley's plan to recreate Noah's Ark. And Superman arrives just in time to destroy the storm-making machine and put an end to Smiley's attempt, freeing all the people in suspended animation. After their weekend getaway, Lois and Clark do manage to realize that they are in fact in love with each other, and that rather than focus on the M word, marriage, they maybe should focus on just being together, being in love, and letting things take their natural course.
Your life is so strange.
And getting stranger by the minute. Lois, flying for me is a piece of cake. I've been doing it since high school. What happens if I screw up? Lose a little altitude? But being in a relationship, it's completely new. If I blow this, I lose everything.
Oh, Clark. I'm not actually as good at romance as I look.
Really?
I mean, my life's basically been about work. I'm just trying to figure this out like you are.
So we'll help each other.
I know I don't always respond appropriately.
Neither do I.
And I don't always know how to express how I feel.
And I get tongue-tied sometimes.
But I do know you broke my heart. And you just have to let me work that out. You can't expect me to just snap out of it.
I will. And I don't. Good night, Lois.
Good night, Clark.
All right, let's delve into all this investigatory goodness.
Okay, so our first thing is from Matt over at Earth Prime, who we've had contributions before when we were talking about sliders, of course, and he wishes, via iReactions, to provide the behind-the-scene fact that Lois's haircut in this episode and going forward was responsible for the ratings crash that got the show canceled after season 4. Mm-hmm. He can cite no sources to confirm this, but absolutely feels certain it was the haircut, and it's really important to him that we know this.
That's not nice. Terry Hatcher looks great.
She does. She's like a little pixie now, you know? Cute. All right, so let's see. There was a line cut from Clark where he actually referenced the X-Files, you know, saying something to the effect, boy, we really sound like those characters on the X-Files, which is what we said, you know, when we were thinking about it. X-Files abduction style thing.
Well, Lois does have a very Scully haircut, talking about her
that's
hair.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Now, there was a scene of Lois and Clark driving to the retreat. So instead of just, you know, showing up there, it was kind of like they were in the car and they're having a conversation. You know, Clark is enjoying the outdoors, saying how he likes being out here, back to nature, that whole thing. And, like, Lois is mad, you know, about the whole situation between them. And she's saying how it's her right to be mad and it's justified anger, you know. And, you know, she starts reading the letter. She says, you know, Michelle wrote a letter to her sister, and she starts going over it, and she says, it's like she reads from it, and she says it's eerie, but I'm not sure why. So it's a little extra banter between the two as they go up to the retreat.
It makes that letter make a bit more sense too, because it's like they just kind of rock up there, and they just like, oh, she wrote this letter to her sister, and I was like, really? Like, yeah. This is the first time we're hearing about this?
Exactly. So, I mean, imagine cut for time. When Clark goes to meet Star to get her to read that passage that he, you know, from the book, she's outside. He's like, why are you outside, Star? You know, instead of being in the apartment. And she says, you know, I was getting rid of evil spirits in my place, and it got a little intense in there, so I came out for some air. So then she's like, she's trying to guess, you know, in her psychic way, why Clark is here instead of out at that retreat with Lois. And she's like, let me see. No, don't tell me I'm psychic. She goes, you came home because you're feeling blue. No. You want to sail around the Cape? No, wait. Lois gave you the boot. No, blue? No, Cape. Boots, blue. Cape, boots. And then Clark said, I need you to, you know, contact an ancient scholar and get him to read some archaic writing. And then she's like, yeah, I was going to say that next. It was pretty amusing.
I like it.
You know, because she's getting closer to, like, thinking of the Superman uniform. So it was good. It was a good little bit. And then finally, this is something I found on the Lois and Clark wiki, they had mentioned this. The guy who plays Smiley, Larry Smiley, do you know who he is?
No idea.
Well, apparently he is a country singer, an old songwriter, and he wrote the song "In the Ghetto," which is a big hit for Elvis back in the I think it must have been the 70s. So he wrote that song and put out his own version of it. But of course, Elvis is the one who took it and made it a little more popular. But he wrote a bunch of different songs as well. "A Little Less Conversation," which was another Elvis song. I'm not sure if he wrote just all Elvis tunes, but there's other ones called what's the other one? "Rock and Roll," "Spread Your Love on Me," "Hooked on Music," "Kiss It and Make It Better," "I Believe in Music."
Are these Remy songs?
They could be. They could be Remy songs. The biggest one that I know of is called "It's Hard to Be Humble," which I think is a little bit more recent. Is in the late 90s. But yeah, he's apparently a country singer playing Larry Smiley. But that's not all, because I looked at his IMDb, and apparently he is also a writer. Like, he's just like a normal writer, and he has credits. I was looking at his credits here. He has credits as being a writer on The New Girl, the Zooey Deschanel show. He has credits for being a writer on Glee, The Tonight Show. It's like all these things. I'm like, really? He wrote on these? A writer for American Idol? It's like, wow. It's just interesting. I would not have suspected that this guy, his name is Mac Davis, the guy who played Larry Smiley. And he was listed, and this is funny, he was listed in 1979 as one of the promising new actors. There you go.
Wow. Yeah, would not have picked that at all. Especially like teen shows and stuff like that, like Glee. Like, what?
I know. He's a writer on The Big Bang Theory. He wrote for Good Morning America and Oprah Winfrey. I'm just going down right now, looking at all the different things that he's done, through the past. And then I'm in the 2005s here. He wrote on the Canadian version of American Idol. So Canadian Idol. He wrote on Johnny Bravo. Oh, he's a performer on Johnny Bravo on that one. But he wrote in Bruce Almighty. He was part of that writing team. Everybody Loves Raymond, Las Vegas, Smallville.
This guy's all over the place.
I know. He's Freaks and Geeks. It's like, I'm amazed. Way to go, Larry.
Nice, yeah. Good on you.
I'll follow you through the arc. Why not?
There's some files here divided into piles marked accepted and rejected candidates. Candidates for what? Clark, we're in the rejected pile.
Lois, don't you think that's probably a good thing?
Well, I'd like to feel wanted. Smiley says we're not compatible. He says I don't trust you or respect you. And he doesn't know why you even put up with me.
Lois, the guy's a murderer.
Of course I trust you. And I respect you more than anyone else I've ever met. And if I do get angry, it's only because I have never opened up to somebody so much in my whole life. And it hurts me when I feel like that trust isn't returned. And you put up with me for the same reason I put up with you. It's because I'm completely in love with you.
And I love you. Did we just make up?
I think so. We maybe do this someplace and it's not so musty. I'm not owned by a killer.
Alright, well, getting into the main story. And the lead here, cultish crackpot concealed at relationship retreat. Bit of, what am I thinking? Don't worry about it.
Alliteration?
Double alliteration. That's what I was
Double
trying-
alliteration, yes.
Okay, so Lois and Clark are still on the outs with each other. Now, is Clark stalking Lois or what?
Is he? I could have been a coincidence. It really could have been.
I don't know. He's kind of just like around wherever she is. And she's like,
Yeah.
She kind of points it out, but he's just like, no, me and Jimmy are just hanging out. And I'm like, no, you're stalking her.
It is kind of odd because we don't really see Jimmy and Clark hang out like that normally, or at least they don't show us that. But I mean, yeah, I guess he could like sort of keep his eye on her.
Yeah, he leaves with Lois though.
Right.
So
exactly.
if he's hanging out with Jimmy, what, do you just like, all right, Jimmy, see you later?
Exactly.
Didn't even say goodbye. Just walked off with Lois. Rude. So he's a rude stalker now.
Yeah. But I think people are just used to Clark just taking off at this point, you know? Like I said, what did I say that in early season 1? I think we were talking about it, that someone might think he has like a drug problem, always ducking off, you know, and not coming back.
Yeah, he's just going to do some crack or heroin or something. So
Exactly.
Jimmy's not that concerned.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, there goes Clark getting his fix again.
But they stroll on back to Lois's place, and we get to see these two neighbors of hers, Arnold and Michelle, who are like so in love that they just start making out. Like that's even more rude than being a stalker or a junkie.
Just making out right in front of you.
I know, it's crazy. They just start making out with each other. You're like, what the hell? And of course, we get a huge biblical reference. They get to see a burning bush.
Oh, yeah.
And are abruptly kidnapped. Now, it's a little in your face, right?
Mm-hmm.
This whole, I mean, the episode's called Just Say Noah. And now we've got burning bushes and stuff. And you're like, oh, God.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the bush, I was like, whoa, okay. That's hitting it right there on the nose. Definitely going that way.
But we do get a scene with Jonathan and Martha shortly thereafter. And it turns out that they're pretty much on Lois's side of things. Like, they talk about, like, not being on sides. But I thought this was pretty cool. The fact that they're kind of like, we see where Lois is coming from. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
The whole idea that, like, Clark doesn't quite understand what he's done wrong in a way. I don't know.
I mean, like I said, I get where she's coming from too, but I just don't like the back and forth, because you know that's the whole. I mean, I guess he's done it a couple times now where he's broken her heart. Like I said in that deleted scene, she has a right to be justified because she feels like she's being jerked around.
Yeah, I agree. Like when we were talking about it last week, it kind of seemed like you and I were just a bit like, seriously, like, come on. But I see what you're saying. It's just like, yeah, you're watching a TV show and you kind of want these two to be together. So it is a bit more like, ugh, just come on, just be together already.
Right.
But now that they're sort of talking about it, you can sort of see where they're coming from. And it's not going to last forever anyway.
Well, of course, yeah.
But Lois, you know, she gets wind of the fact that Arnold and Michelle have disappeared. And it's one of those coincidental things. Like she's just in the Daily Planet, and she wants to look into this thing, but there just happens to be this like infomercial for Larry Smiley.
Yeah,
and Arnold and Michelle are like on his show giving a testimonial for his couples retreat.
Yes,
and she's just like, "Hey, that's them!" Like, wow, what a coincidence! And just like
that was lucky.
Or we just need a plot point to keep this moving forward. But
exactly,
Perry brings up that he and Alice had been going to this guy's thing again. They're getting back to this whole thing with Perry and Alice kind of being on the outs a little bit.
It's nice that we're given a little more time with Perry's life. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of seems like it's come out of nowhere all of a sudden. Like it's because we don't know Alice. We've never met her.
Yeah, and see, that's something that I kind of like. We do get to see Alice in this episode. The whole thing about Alice is like I paused it many times trying to get a good look at her, and it's hard to get a good look at her. Like there's like I've tried advancing it, screen by screen or frame by frame to try to get a look at Alice there, and it's you can't really see who it is. It's hard to see the top of the face and everything. You see like her mouth mostly. I'm disappointed that I saw Alice. I think of her kind of like I think of Vera, Norm's wife from Cheers. I don't know if you watched that show. It's like you always hear about her, but you never see her. She's just this person that's there, but you never get to see her. Because when I saw Alice and she had that. Like her hair was kind of like curly, big red, like 80s red or something like that. And I was like, oh, well, I'm like, that's not how I envisioned her, but okay. It was nice not to have her defined as just, she was just like this mythical wife that he always had.
Yeah, it almost made me think of like Home Improvement, the next door neighbor in Home Improvement. What was his name?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Al?
No, Al was his co-host on the show. Yeah. That was Wilson.
Wilson, that's right, yeah. Kind of made me think of that. But at least Wilson was a character. Like, he talked to him all the time.
Exactly.
Alice is kind of here, but they still try their best to skirt around her.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like... Yeah, it kind of would have been better if she just wasn't in the episode. But then again, Perry and Alice have to get kidnapped for this whole Noah's Ark metaphor thing to work.
Right.
So, yeah, it's like they didn't want to show her, but they had to at the same time. It was weird.
I was looking on IMDb here for the episode, trying to see like if they like even showed like who played Alice, and I can't find any reference to her in the cast list at all. So it's just an uncredited part, I guess, because she didn't have any lines or anything like that. So they getting credited.
I guess if you don't say anything, then technically you're just an extra.
Right.
It's like you say, you don't really see her face either, so they probably just used any old stand-in, just
Yeah.
slap a red wig on her and off you go.
Exactly.
But anyway, Lois, makes the connection to Larry Smiley, so Perry decides to put the two of them, Lois and Clark, on an undercover mission because, quote-unquote, nothing will get in the way of professionalism, right?
Right.
Which I thought was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
Obviously, Perry's like, I know something's going on here with you two. So maybe if I force you to spend a weekend together at a couples retreat, no less, then...
Yes.
But we get to know, what's going on with Larry Smiley. And he spouts out a whole bunch of mumbo-jumbo, and it's quickly revealed that he's running some kind of religious cult to bring on what he calls the New Dawn. I mean... Yeah, but this is cult to the max, right? And people just follow him blindly because he says he's got a red phone that he can talk to God on.
Oh my God.
Seriously?
Yeah.
What is wrong with people? And then, like we said, Perry and Alice are kidnapped as well. So this kind of reveals the whole plan. And it turns out that he's got this weather device called the Aqua Plus 1000 Stormmaker.
Yes.
That he can just use to flood the whole world. But he's gathered together a whole bunch of very compatible couples to be the designated survivors of this whole thing. It's a crazy plan, but whatever. Lois and Clark are at this retreat and they're listening to all this yada 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 stuff. They kind of, they got to share the same room and everything. They discuss where they're at. And I think this is actually a pretty good back and forth, actually, because Clark decides he can't, sleep on a chair or anything like that. So he flies and floats along. And they have this pretty cool conversation backwards and forth where he kind of, floats into the shot and tries to, sweet talk her, and then he floats back out again. I liked it.
Yeah, that was good.
And they try to get information from this counselor named Kathy. Now, this whole thing is super weird because they approach her and they're like, hey, Kathy... Hey, you know what's going on, right? And she's like, no. So they go to meet her by this tree. And somehow she's been, friggin' cut up and, tossed into the tree.
Yes. Just left for dead.
I don't know how that happened. What?
Well, they had that scene of where Larry Smiley is talking to her and he suspects that she's a traitor or something like that. Remember that scene? And then he gets really he makes a turn in his personality right there for a moment, and you're genuinely scared for Kathy, but then he gets a phone call and everything's back to normal. He's like, hey, God says everything's going great. So it was kind of out of nowhere. I guess the suggestion is Larry Smiley sort of just killed her and put her up in there. But why leave her to be discovered?
I know. It was just it just seemed unnecessarily savage,
Yeah.
That she would be so cut up and bloodied and then thrown up into a tree. Why? And like you said, why wouldn't they just drag her body off and bury her somewhere or whatever? They're a cult that's about to flood the world, What's the point of getting pinned for murder before you can pull off this plot?
I know.
But whatever. They do find this page from an old book, which they think is written in Hebrew or something like that. And they find that they're actually in the pile of rejected couples. Smiley doesn't think they're compatible at all. And Lois gets so worked up about this that she just comes out and says, look, I think you're the most trustworthy person I've ever met, Clark, and I wouldn't want to be with anybody else. And of course, this just leads to them making up. So now that they're on the same team, they look into it, and Clark goes and sees Star.
I know, that was a bit odd. I was like, why Star?
And she summons up this dude who can read it because it's Aramaic. And I'm like, what the hell? I mean, I was going with it. She's psychic. She has some funny bits, whatever. She's actually summoning someone from the dead and they are speaking through her. Come on.
Well, she's psychic, so maybe that's part of what she does, calls up dead spirits. And I was a little bit like, well, I guess, why not? Because I thought he was going to go to a university or something like that and see a professor. But no, let's go to the psychic. Why not?
No, It was over the top. All right. You know, it was like we talked about Star when she came in, and we're just like, okay, she's just going to be there. She'll be this exposition person, and she'll have funny bits and stuff like that. This is just too far. This is just over the top for me. I just can't. I don't like this. Like, this is Dos Machina to the max. Like, seriously, there has to be a better way for them to get the information they need than to summon a person from the dead.
Well, you know what they should have done? If they were smart, they would have just gone to the Lois and Clark wiki. Okay, because that tells us about little things, sometimes little production errors and goofs. And one of the things was about this page that she was reading from. It doesn't really tell about this page doesn't really tell about the story of Noah's Ark. It was supposed to be, or what is actually on the paper is a result from the Hebrew, and I don't know how to say this, but I'll do my best. The Hebrew Shulchan Aruch, which is a compendium of Jewish religious law. And the page removed had the end section about laws relating to the Torah scroll and the beginning of the section of laws discussing the construction of synagogues. So really, there's nothing on that page about Noah at all. But hey, it works for the show.
It's like Jimmy's $100 bill turned $1 bill when he asked for 20 kind of thing. Yeah?
Exactly.
Just whatever. Just throw whatever in there. But yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
It was a little creepy, though, seeing her talk in that voice, I will say.
Yeah. Jimmy actually shows up because Clark's off with Star. Right. So Jimmy randomly appears there. And, of course, he and Lois are captured. Mm-hmm. Because why would they not be? And Superman flies on in to save the day, and he warms everybody up from their frozen cocoons using his heat vision. Again, he's got to adjust the setting on his heat vision.
Turn it down a little bit. Go from fry to toast, maybe, you know.
Now, I think you and I are both going to land on the same thing here, but we're going to go with the assumption that Larry Smiley was not talking to God. He was just this weirdo cult leader guy, and it was good that Superman stopped him from this stupid-ass plan.
I'm thinking maybe if he was crazy, you know, if he was crazy and actually hearing voices in his head, you know, like in need of psychiatric help or something like that, even if it was something as serious as that, you know, it's good that he stopped him, of course, but like that whole weather thing, like that's just, you know, that's not good. It's good that he stopped that, because that's like the weather, the Aqua Plus 1000 Storm Maker. It sounds like something that you could just buy on the shelf, but it's very dangerous. So it's good.
It's not like the world was just going to naturally flood.
Yeah, he was
going to make it happen.
Yeah. So technically, he is a criminal. You know, it's not just he's not crazy, but he was going to kill everybody in the world with that thing. So.
And then Lois and Clark decide that they're not going to discuss marriage anymore. Let's just not do this. Let's just be happy, being in love.
Which I'm glad. That's a good thing. You know, it's like, don't focus on the whole marriage thing. Like, I've said this many times to many people, you know, like, don't rush in. You know, just take your time and let things naturally progress, and that's what they're going to sort of do here, at least as much as they can for a TV show.
It is a good place for it to land. I think both you and I decided that we thought it was not a good thing that season 2 ended with the marriage proposal.
Right.
And we were like, seriously, like he goes from wanting to reveal who he is to will you marry me? Like,
right.
That's like a quick turnaround. So when they pulled it back a bit, you know, this is kind of a good place for it to land. You know, just for the two of them to be together and be in love. And let's just talk about marriage later. And
exactly.
I don't know if we're going to stick with that, but I'm sure we'll find out as the season goes along.
Exactly.
All right, some bylines. Perry offers his friendly ear to bend as Lois helps with an excuse.
Yeah.
And Clark runs off, and he has to help some nuns.
And that reminds me as well, I almost forgot about this. One of those nuns in there is actually Dean Cain's mother. Because we've seen her show up in like other bit parts, and like when they were back in Smallville, and she was the one of the women in the toy store with the space rats, and yeah, she was one of the nuns in there.
I thought it was really funny, actually. Reminds me of the pilot episode when that bus was out of control, like the first scene.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And like the bus was going to hit a group of women, children, and nuns. And we're like,
exactly. Every possible, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, the whole thing where Clark has to fly out to retrieve Lois's luggage because somehow it just didn't get packed into the bus or whatever it was when they were heading there. So he gets stuck as Superman and has to be like this motivational speaker of sorts to all the other couples.
I know, that one couple was annoying. It's like, you're supposed to help people, you know? It's like, maybe there's an earthquake going on across the world he needs to attend to, you know? Like, he could have come up with another excuse, but it was funny.
That's what I was thinking. I'm just like, just say, oh, well, it was an avalanche somewhere. I gotta go.
Exactly. You guys deal with your, you issues by yourself.
And then lastly, Jimmy's weirdo sex dream confession to Lois.
It's pretty funny. I'll make a man out of you.
Yes, but I guess speaking of which, let's get into the quote vote.
Okay.
What's everybody standing around for? This is a newspaper, not happy hour at Buckingham Palace. What are we here, the Daily Planet, or second stringers from the Weehawken Gazette?
Am I making myself perfectly clear?
Oh, okay. I see.
Yes. We did have a clear winner this week for the quote vote, so let's delve into it, shall we?
Okay.
Cue the music.
Sean Connery and Vincent Price are tied to a lightning rod.
Now, Sean, you don't really think he can flood the Earth, do you?
No, Vincent, it's this turning us into the toast thing that's got me worried. Lightning strikes around them.
All right. Well, since this is it, I'm going to confess that, well, I used to have a little crush on you. In fact, I had this dream.
Superman suddenly flies in.
And then you took my hand and said, Vincent, I can make a man of you.
Superman unties them. Thanks.
Sean, panic makes a man say some strange things sometimes. And I was wondering if you could sort of forget what I...
Trust me. And see. Oh, what a visual. Vincent, I can make a man of you. That was good. I like it.
I'm really liking the Vincent Price.
Yes, it's good. It sounds really good.
All right, well, let's get into the second episode discussion today. The episode is Don't Tug on Superman's Cape, written by David Simpkins and directed by Stephen Dubin?
Yeah, sure.
And this originally aired on November 5th of 1995.
Lois, I'm home. I had a train derailment in Canada, an orphanage fire in London, and a dam broke in India. Did you make something for dinner? Oh, my gosh! What happened?
Lex Luthor.
The rat.
Where's Lois?
She was here just a second ago.
Probably scared witless, poor thing.
Don't worry. I'll have you out of that thing in no time. Okay, let's see now. Do I disconnect the black wire or the white one?
Don't worry, I'll save you. What do you think?
No.
What do I think? Lois, I think you got some splaining to do.
Clarky, if we're gonna be partners and we're gonna be married, I want to be part of the act.
Lois, there are things I do you can do. Me, Superman.
Me, super wife.
Us, super in trouble. Could you hold this argument till later and get us out of here?
I knew this was gonna happen. First you know who I am, then you wanna fire me, next thing you're gonna fire yourself in the head.
Uh-oh. Eee.
Ay, caramba! You exploded them.
Oh, Clarky. Well, I can explain why they exploded.
Ay, ay, ay.
When a criminal named Batbrain that Lois and Clark helped put in jail escapes, all hands are on deck to protect the pair from his revenge. Fortunately for them, Batbrain was broken out of prison and then subsequently killed by Tim and April Lake, collectors of the rare and the unique, hoping to add Superman to their collection. While both Clark and Lois suffer from nightmares and daydreams about their place in each other's worlds, the Lakes manage a series of attacks designed to appear as if Batbrain is committing the crimes. First stealing kryptonite from Star Labs, attacking Clark's apartment and destroying his supply of supersuits, and then faking both Lois's and and Superman's death. In reality, the two are held captive by an electric field that will detonate if either of them breaks the field or touches the floor outside of the field, should they happen to find a way to escape. Superman does find a way, vibrating his body so fast using super speed he can pass through solid objects and manage to shut down power to the explosives, capture the Lakes, and take them into custody.
What happened?
I'm sorry, I'm still a bit loopy. They took it all.
Took all of what? Was it bad brain?
We didn't see anybody.
Nobody had to.
His calling card.
Did he leave that in the kryptonite vault?
Dr. Klein.
The what?
The vault, where we kept the kryptonite for Superman.
Excuse me. You're keeping kryptonite here?
And now Bad Brain Johnson has it. Oh, my head.
Doctor, can you excuse us for a second?
Yeah.
Why would you have kryptonite?
Dr. Klein is working on radiation therapy. It's like a vaccine. If we can counteract its effects, then it won't be a problem any longer.
If he finds a vaccine, Clark...
Superman?
Why would you let that stuff anywhere near you? You know, get rid of it. Throw it into the sun. Of course, now you can't throw it into the sun because Bad Brain Johnson has stolen it. He could have it pointed at your thick skull right now.
Okay, you're angry.
Yes. Don't you think you should have told me?
I don't know. I don't know how this works. Are two people supposed to tell each other everything?
Yes. I think two people who are considering doing what... Don't they?
Wait a minute. Are we talking about what we decided not to talk about?
No. No, we're not discussing marriage because that, combined with other unusual aspects of our relationship, is making us both crazy. And so, no, we should not discuss it.
Okay, fine. So we won't.
Fine. And that leaves us where?
With this clue.
All right. Well, iReactions has hooked us up with like tons of stuff to investigate this further.
So when Lois comes into the first opening scene, the I Love Lucy scene, she enters by singing the Mighty Mouse theme. You know, the "Here I come to save the day." So that was Lois's part. And they were supposed to have Walt Disney in a block of ice as one of the treasures that they had captured over the years, and it was supposed to be a back and forth again between Tim and Amber. You know, saying, you know, the one guy would say, "Well, we wished upon a star," and the girl would say, "And paid a fortune." You know how they did that whole back and forth in the episode.
Yeah.
So, a little extra line there. The stack of papers that was falling when they rush out wasn't in the script. That was added in later. Dean Cain was supposed to have a British accent, which I wondered about because it sounded like he was trying to, but it just wasn't coming off very well. At Star Labs, Dr. Klein was supposed to describe the robbery as explosions, gas, everybody unconscious, not unlike my daughter's rehearsal dinner at El Burrito. That was funny. It made me laugh. That would have been a good line to have in there. All the smiling between Lois and Clark in this episode was added in. Didn't specify in the script that they were supposed to be overly in love with each other, but the actors, I guess, decided, you know, to add that little touch in there, which was good. I think that was a good thing to have in there. The line about how Clark asks if, isn't that boring, you know, getting along all the time, and they say, boring, and they, you know, talk a little bit about that. That wasn't in the script either. That was added in. In the script, it said that Amber should look like she's ready to pounce on Tim, like, you know, like she wants to get with him, you know, but instead we got a little bit of a cheesy, over-the-top, lovey-dovey feel instead is what they chose to go with. But yeah, in the script it was more obvious that she was trying to like get with him. The whole Dragnet parody that we had in there, which we'll talk about later, that wasn't in the script at all. That was just something that was added in, and neither was the Clark freaking out about Jimmy calling them the perfect couple. That wasn't in the script either. And yeah, like I said, we'll talk about that. We got iReactions. He wanted to make sure that we understood that there was a big continuity error in this episode because iReactions himself was in China when this episode aired, and there was no earthquake. There was no earthquake that day. So now we know. Big error. In the script, the jail that Lois was in was described as a Star Trek type jail, which is kind of funny given that we had Jonathan Frakes in the episode, because I don't think they wrote that after he was in it. It was just like, you know, that was the original idea that what this jail was supposed to look like. So it's kind of cool.
With the force field and everything, yeah.
And then after Superman takes out the explosives and everything. It was supposed to be Lois who goes after Tim and Amber and like beats them up. Like she like uses her, I guess, that karate, that mixed martial arts or whatever that she had been training for. And like, I don't know if they were going to show that, but Superman was just leaning up against the wall watching the whole thing, you know, and Lois is beating him up and she's like, have a nice rest of your life in prison, you know, and then it's done. And Superman says, looks like you enjoyed that. And she goes, well, it's not something I want to make a career out of. Don't worry. Nice little scene for her, but really kind of out of character, you know. We don't really see her beating up on the criminals too much, like a kick here or a punch there. In the final Daily Planet scene, Perry, you know, talks about silver linings, but instead in the script he said something like, you'll stay okay as long as you face things together. And then he raises a glass and he says, so here's to being together. It's kind of, it's an ending, but it's just like, it's weird. Like
Yeah.
It sounds like something I would have written like when I was in junior high, because I used to write stories back then. And it's just like, well, we got to wrap this up on a happy note, so here's a couple sentences. You know? Weird. Nothing against Dubin or whoever the guy was wrote it, but I'm just saying it's odd. Yeah. Oh no,
Yeah.
that's Simpkins. Sorry, there's a weird ending there.
Who wants extra spicy?
Careful, Lois. Dad's extra spicy. Deadly.
The rest of us have grown a tolerance over the years.
Don't pay any attention to them.
Sure, I'll try it.
Gambler in the house.
Almost finished.
I'm surprised you had so much material, Mom.
Well, to tell the truth, I got it on special.
So, Lois Clark tells me that you're going to be staying with us till this Barnacle Bill gets bored or calls it quits.
Bad brain.
I can't keep up.
Actually, I'm only gonna stay for a couple of days. I don't want to make Clark handle the whole thing by himself.
Oh, but honey, sometimes don't you have to let Clark go it alone? You're a little more likely to get hurt.
On the other hand, Lois is a smart woman, and she doesn't want to feel pushed aside either.
Oh. Listen to us. You think it was our problem. I'm sure you guys are working this stuff out if you're talking about marriage. Oh, I forgot. You're not talking about it.
We just decided to give it a little rest. It was, thank you. It was making us both a little nuts.
You see how things change, Martha? In our day, it would have driven us nuts not to talk about it.
Oh, Lord, yes. I was so nervous about getting married. If I'd held in my silly little fears, they would have become gigantic.
Maybe you'd have even had nightmares.
Probably.
All right, well, let's get into the main story here. And our lead, courtesy of Lois and Clark's story, perfect couple, perfect evil.
Yes.
So Lois calls up Clark to tell him that this notorious criminal named Bad Brain Johnson has broken out of prison, and he apparently has a vendetta against them for putting him away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this whole thing about them being cops now, so
Exactly.
it's all their fault.
Exactly. Our reactions did try to look back because they went to great lengths to make it seem like Bad Brain had shown up before. You know, but he was never in an actual episode.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, have we seen this guy before? I don't know.
No. Yeah, they tried to make it seem like that, you know, it was, I mean, obviously they have adventures when we're not watching them, you know, theoretically. So that would have been one of the things that they did in our, you know, in the past.
But it's all a bit of a bait and switch anyway, because this episode is not about Bad Brain and his vendetta against them. He was actually busted out of prison by these rich weirdos named Amber and Tim.
Right.
Now, I don't know who Amber is, but of course Tim is played by Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek The Next Generation.
I will tell you who she is. Her name is Jeannie Francis. And in real life, even at this time in 1995, she is actually the real life wife of Jonathan Frakes.
Ah, there you go.
They actually are a real life perfect couple, you know? So it's kind of neat. I didn't know that when I watched the episode, but I found it out after, you know, checking the wiki. That's what it told me.
Ah, good bit of info.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of cool to see Jonathan Frakes show up. I mean, I guess Next Generation would have been over by now, right? 95?
Yeah, it was over by then, yeah. I think it was 87. It started in 87, I believe, right? And ran like 7 years. So, yeah, it would have been over, yeah.
But, of course, Jonathan Frakes, he's well known now as a director. He directs a lot of stuff for sci-fi things like
Yeah.
that. I was talking about him actually just a few weeks ago on another podcast that I do, Triplecast, and we were talking about the made-for-TNT movies, The Librarian,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and he directed 2 of the 3 of those.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but yeah, he's a well-known director these days. Doesn't quite do as much acting, but yeah,
Right.
you know, at this point, yeah, people would have really recognized him as Riker from Next Gen, so
Yep.
it's cool to see him show up in here.
Mm-hmm.
The character, on the other hand,
Yes.
I mean, these two are just bug nuts crazy.
I gotta say, it's probably the two of them, since they are married in real life. I bet this was just a load of just fun for them, you know, because like sometimes, I mean, it's what, like when you're a couple with someone, sometimes you do things that are just so ridiculous and just funny. Like my girlfriend and I do stuff like that too, where we just get over the top, you know, like ridiculous, like acting like that, like the two of them did in front of friends, just to like, you know, be silly and gross them out, you know. So I'm sure that these two, you know, being married, they just had a ball with this, I'm sure.
Yeah, this episode really is just a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
Really. There's nothing too serious going on here. Now, these two, being rich weirdos, love to collect things,
Yeah.
just as Lex did back in the day. And they've, in fact, got some of his stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about.
They point out the arms of the Venus de Milo. That's the one that really stuck out to me.
That's something that iReactions had mentioned. He said, well, isn't that a continuity error? Because Lex had those things originally, you know, and they were sent back to the, like Superman found them, sent them back to the museum or whatever. But I thought, well, yeah, they could have stolen them. You know, they easily could have stolen them from the museum again, you know,
Yeah.
or Ember and Tim could have. And then our reactions mentioned that probably Lex would have said something like, well, Ember and Tim Lake only think they have the arms of the Venus de Milo because they're not. You know, that's how he would be, you know. So I was like, yeah, that's a good point. But anyway, they have some other stuff too, which was fun.
Yeah, they have this disintegration device that Bad Brain had made, like it was his weapon of choice, I guess.
Yeah, and it's not a very good weapon, is it?
Well, you have to, like, trick the person into standing between 2 pylons.
I know. It's like, what? And, like, I was confused. I guess I figured it out now, but I was confused why they even busted him out just to kill him. Because they already had his stuff, so what was the big deal? But I guess they wanted to bust him out and kill him so that he was, like, their alibi, so no one suspected them.
Exactly. Whatever they do from now on, they just blame on Bad Brain by leaving the literal calling card that apparently Bad Brain used to just leave a literal card with his name on it at all of his crime scenes.
But I was like, why? Like, I guess it was confusing because I'm like, well, yeah, I guess that's good because you're redirecting them. But was anybody going to suspect you two in the first place? You know, it's like,
It's a good point.
I don't think they would have. So it's like, all right, whatever. So we go with it.
It's just extra insurance, I guess.
Exactly.
They're rubbing places all over them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Their first port of call is to get their hands on some kryptonite, which was apparently being stored at Star Labs by Superman. This was interesting, the fact that Superman had some kryptonite. Didn't tell anybody about it, of course.
Right.
But he trusted this doctor, what was his name, Klein?
Yep, Dr. Klein.
And he pretty much asked Dr. Klein to research it, see if he could find some sort of vaccination or something.
Yes. Now, is this the first time we've seen Dr. Klein? I think it is, right?
I think so, yeah.
He is definitely going to stick around, and I like this actor. Not that I've seen him in much else, but I like this actor as Dr. Klein. I mean, it would have been nice if he could have been the Professor Hamilton because he's more from the comics. You know, it would have been more in line with the comics. But the fact, you know, I know like this guy's going to be sticking around as a, you know, helper. I like this. I think he's a funny guy. You know, he has some good moments. So I'm glad to have Dr. Klein finally. I was awaiting him, you know, since we started doing this because I knew he was going to show up at some point.
And I do like this plot point, you know, the fact that he had some kryptonite, you know, and he's got somebody working on, you know, what he can do about this problem.
That's consistent with both the cartoon, the animated series that they had of Superman, and the comic books, because he has done that. Like he has had access to kryptonite and had scientists, you know, check it out to see if there's stuff that how he can fight against it. So it is keeping with the tradition.
It's also interesting that he never mentioned any of this to Lois as well.
Right.
Because she gets pretty pissed about the fact that he never mentioned this.
Right. Well, in his defense, they've had a lot going on. You know, they just had to save the world from being flooded last episode. So, you know, it kind of slips through the cracks.
Sure. But Lois and Clark, they go to interview Tim and Amber, and they, for some reason, grow suspicious of Clark, so they decide that they're going to kill him.
Well, he was asking about their tires.
Yeah, that's right.
That's an odd thing to ask about, just in an article about, like, their love and their, you know, it's like, that's a little bit weird.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, didn't we put those tires on the truck that we used in the robbery and whatnot? And he's like,
exactly.
You put super expensive tires on a random old beat-up truck that you used in a robbery?
Right.
All right. But I guess they are rich weirdos. So.
They are rich weirdos.
So Tim and Amber make this attempt on Lois and Clark by strapping a laser to an RC helicopter. And, of course, framing Bad Brain for it as well. This whole sequence, I mean, it was just bizarre, right? Because Lois is talking about how, you know, people only see what they want to see. And she talks about how she was fooled by Clark's glasses all those years.
Yeah.
And she puts them on. And then the helicopter mistakes her for Clark. And you're just like, okay, weird.
Yeah. It almost makes it seem like the helicopter has, like, facial recognition or something like that, where I just figured it had a camera and someone was controlling it. And then they would have seen, oh, well, that's obviously not Clark. It's a woman, you know? Just because she's dressed like that with the glasses on doesn't mean it's Clark. But yeah, it made it seem like the helicopter was, like, autonomous, like operating by itself.
It was like the command that they put in there. Fly up to the apartment, find the person wearing glasses. That's Clark, and kill him.
I know. That could have been anybody. It could have been anybody. It could have been Mr. Johnson down on floor 3 or whatever, you know? It's like, come on.
Killed just because you're wearing glasses.
That's why we tell you, go get the LASIK. Get the LASIK. You don't want to be wearing glasses in Metropolis. It's just dangerous.
But, of course, you know, nobody gets hurt by this. Clark jumps in.
Just his suits get hurt.
Yeah. They inadvertently destroy suits. And I pointed this out a few episodes back, that he has a secret revolving bookcase now where he keeps all these suits, right? And so it destroys all his suits in there. Now, this is the cool part. Lois is like, I thought your suits were indestructible. And he says, well, there's an aura that kind of surrounds me. So the suits are only indestructible when I wear them. And I was like, holy crap. We were theorizing about this for like pretty much all of season 1. So here we go. It's canon.
Like we said back then, though, it's not always used, because remember when he gets stuck under the car, the back of his suit jacket is all ripped up, you know? So it's there when they need it.
Within reason, I guess.
Yes.
It's like if you were to stab somebody wearing Kevlar, you know, it's probably not going to stop the knife, but it will stop a bullet. It's that kind of thing. So yeah, being scraped along the ground, yeah, your clothes are going to get a bit torn up. Yeah. But if someone shoots you, that's fine. Your aura will stop that. But yeah, I don't know. I just love that little bit of canon was kind of confirmed there.
Yep.
So Clark leaves Lois with his parents for her own protection. And then he goes off to help with an earthquake in Beijing.
Yes.
Of course, telling Lois to just stay put. Now, of course, we know Lois is not going to do that.
Right. Of course, she doesn't stay put, but she is prodded on a little bit with help from Tim and Amber, you know, putting together the Superman fake call.
Right, they do, yeah. This is pre-Adobe Audition or anything. Like
yeah, oh my God.
I've got some news report footage and, yeah.
Yeah, on the old reel-to-reel. Yeah, they actually have to splice it together. They actually have to, like, cut and put the tape together. I was like, oh, wow, that's so old school.
They also capture it on camera as well to make it appear like she gets caught between Bad Brain's disintegration pylons.
Did you, I gotta say, Bad Brain himself is very tall and very thin. And then Jonathan Frakes is not unattractive and not fat, but he definitely has a different body type than Bad Brain. And both of them have a different body frame than Superman. So when Bad Brain shows up in the Superman suit at first, it definitely doesn't look like Bad Brain. And when he comes out, obviously you could tell, like, Bad Brain's very skinny in that Superman suit. And then when he takes off the mask, the Bad Brain mask, and we reveal it's Jonathan Frakes, it's like, man, he's morphing quite a bit, his body shape here. Which, I mean, they have
They
to
take
do.
some liberties there, yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, they could have at least hired someone to play Bad Brain that was a little closer to Jonathan Frakes' size.
It's like when that guy was pretending to be Lex Luthor that one time.
Yes, exactly.
Buying kryptonite and stuff. He's like, okay.
Yes.
We'll roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
But come on, we saw what you did there. So they hold Lois hostage, and they manage to cage Superman as well in this force field. It's all rigged with bombs and stuff. Totally inescapable for Superman. And they send his cape along with some kryptonite to Perry at the planet as proof of Superman's death. And as Jimmy so intensely says, he's dead. Superman's dead. Oh. It's full on.
It's full on, yeah. I thought that the caging idea was interesting. It was a neat idea because with the field and everything, like if you even touch the field, it'll activate the explosives. If you touch the floor, of course he can fly. But still, I just like the idea that this is a way to cage him. Like you can cage Superman and say, oh, this will explode if you touch it. He doesn't really care. But if it's going to also explode another cage that has Lois in it, then he cares. That's why I said he cares about other people. That's why that's one of his weaknesses.
And obviously you can't get up enough speed to break the sound barrier or anything to get around this problem. So he theorizes some flash skills here.
Yes, yep. Our reactions noted that too.
Yeah, he can vibrate his way through the force field and escape. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a neat use of his powers, Yeah. And it makes sense.
And it's canon within DC. We know the Flash. This is what the Flash does all the time.
Exactly.
Vibrates his way through solid objects. So.
And I like that when he was doing it, and after he finished, he was exhausted. Because he's never done that before. He's never used his powers in quite that way. So he was exhausted by the effort to try to contain all of his super speed in that small amount of space. I thought it was good. I think that was very good.
Yeah, he really had to compose himself to stay lifted off the ground in order to shut off the whole thing. And when he finally does escape and confronts Amber and Tim, it's just, again, they just go so over the top with their...
They do.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Like, wah, wah. Do. Ah. That type of thing.
And, we were talking about it just last episode, but marriage is still on Clark's mind as he sort of lingers a look at the ring and is obviously still thinking about asking her to marry him.
I know. And then Jimmy has the quote-unquote best line. There's no time like the right time. Oh, God. You didn't need to say anything. You could just smile, and just walk away. That would have been fine.
This is coming from a kid who finds the love of his life every season.
Yes.
But we only ever see her once when they break up for whatever reason.
Exactly.
So, yeah, there it is. A few bylines. We did have all this interweaving stuff of Clark and Lois having weirdo dreams and daydreams and stuff.
Yeah, I like it. I thought it was fun. I mean... It's in the bylines for the reason, because it doesn't really have much to do with anything, but still, it's fun to see.
Yeah, it starts off with an I Love Lucy dream sequence.
Right.
And Lois wants to be a part of the act.
Yeah.
Really.
They're trying to figure out where does she fit in the Clark/Superman world. How is she a part of that or not a part of it? And it makes sense because that's, something in I Love Lucy with Lucy all the time, trying to get involved with Ricky and, be involved in things that he's doing. So it makes perfect sense. I like it.
I don't know about Dean Kane's, Spanish accent?
Well, his accents in general. No, not very good at all.
Hey, Lois, where are you?
Yeah, not great.
But Lois has this James Bond daydream, causing her to worry that she, as the Bond girl, would be pushed aside so the leading man, who is James Bond, can take all the glory.
Yeah, I thought, and see, this was cool too. This is, because it's shown that they both have insecurities about where this is all going. How they fit together. So I like this as well because, she's worried about, she's just going to be there and everyone's going to be like, oh, Superman. My name is Man, Superman. It's like, where does she fit into this?
I do love that in her daydream, her character's name was Miss Goodbody.
Yes. Oh, Good Bottom, wasn't it? Wasn't it Miss Good Bottom?
Was it?
Yeah, Good Bottom. Now, of course, we know that that later Lois does become an actual Bond girl.
She does too, yeah.
And her name when she was a Bond girl was simply Paris Carver.
Yeah, not the best Bond girl name, really, is it?
No. I'm like, why? I'm like, really? Paris Carver. Okay. Like I'm expecting some more like Miss Goodbomb, a little double entendre or something.
Exactly. Like they played that stuff up great in the Austin Powers movies where it's like,
oh my god, yeah.
Ivana Hump-a-Lot and Dixie Normus.
Oh, I forgot about that. Now, this daydream, I was a little confused by. So first we have Clark with the I Love Lucy daydream. It shows his insecurities. And then we have, Lois with her insecurities and her daydream. And then we have Clark having another daydream where they do a parody or a take on Dragnet, the old 50s, I think it was 50s TV show. And it's all about him being found guilty of spousal insensitivity because he's off saving things and couldn't go to a baseball game. And I'm like, I guess have we had a little bit of this in the show where he's feeling like he's not doing what he should be doing with Lois?
No,
it just seemed
not
odd.
Really. It seems like, yeah, he wants to have his life and live his life as Clark.
Right.
And he wants to be with Lois.
Yeah.
But he hasn't really had a thing where he's like, I need to give up saving everybody and being Superman in order to be with Lois.
Right. So it seemed like odd to see this little daydream in here. Maybe they were running out of, or maybe they needed to stretch something for time and they decided to put it in because it wasn't even in the original script like iReactions found. So it was something extra that they put in after the fact. So maybe they were thinking that they were going to run short on the episode and needed to put something in there, and that's why they did.
That's what I think too. It just doesn't seem to fit with
right
because he's more about how can I be with Lois and be Superman, and how can I get her to accept both of us as being the same person.
Right. And now the neat thing about this little daydream was when Jimmy talks about, were you off saving the Hoover Dam instead of going to the baseball game? That could be a reference to Superman the movie, because in Superman the movie Christopher Reeve saves the Hoover Dam from falling apart. So I don't know if they just said the Hoover Dam in general or if that was actually supposed to be like a reference to that.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. I did love the Batman reference in this episode.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I went back to look at that scene, and when they first open up that hidden room, if you look, you can actually see the Tim Burton Batmobile in the background, and you could see the hubcap being a little bat symbol. Like I was like, oh, there it is. You can actually see it.
I didn't realize that. I just caught the reference when they said, oh, there's this car. It's one of a kind that we're batty over, and I was like,
I know. I was like,
get it.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like fine with that because I was thinking it would be the 1966, the Adam West Batmobile. But when I went back and I was like, why? Something in the wiki made me want to go back and look at it because they referenced it. And I was like, oh, let me check. And when I saw it, it was the Tim Burton Batmobile. I was like, oh, cool.
Nice. I love it. I did want to mention that poor guy who has all the files blown out of his hands when Superman flies off.
Oh, yeah.
That was just random.
It was.
Clark runs down the hallway, you get the whoosh, and then this dude's files just like fly out of his hands, and he's just like, oh, man. And so I was picking him up, and I was like, what the hell was that? This is random.
I wonder if that was like how you get like a walk-on, like he's an extra that someone knew, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's not credited in the episode at all, but maybe it's like one of those things like, oh yeah, we'll get you in an episode, the cousin of a cousin or something like that. And this is all you have to do. Because, yeah, it didn't make sense. It was kind of like, why draw attention to that?
I know. It
was funny because it's like, well, that makes sense. They rush off so quickly, but still, yeah. I get where you're coming from.
But I don't know. If that's kind of like a reoccurring gag that happens, I will probably laugh at it every time because it's a funny gag.
Exactly.
And lastly, did you notice Lois's dead plant is back?
I noticed in this one, yeah, because she pours the whatever she had to drink in there. So
yeah, she had like a glass of wine or something. She dipped it into the dead plant.
And it used to be coffee, yes.
But all in all, I think people might suspect that we would hate on this episode, but not really.
No, I like this one better than the last episode. Like of the two, I'd prefer to watch this one.
Yeah, I think so as well. That bad guy from from the first episode was just it's just another one of those bad guys where you're like, seriously? This one, I mean, they were over the top, they were totally campy, but hey, it's Jonathan Frakes and I recognize him, and it was a bit of fun and I had a good laugh with it.
She's gone, Jimmy. I'll never get used to that either. Now, have we heard from Clark?
No. Why couldn't you have just stayed hidden?
Lois is a very... Was a very headstrong woman.
Chief, Superman will find Bad Brain, and when he does, I'd hate to be in his shoes. But I'd love to be there to see Superman kick his butt.
Yeah, but where is Superman? I mean, is he even on the case?
You want my guess? Superman is somewhere bumming big time.
Don't come in here unless you got good news.
It's a package for you, Mr. White.
Oh. Oh. Thank you. What's this? Oh, my God.
He's dead. Superman is dead.
All right, well, back issues this week.
Yeah, and there was really nothing, like, something about 1995 I can't find posts for these episodes. It's just odd because that's when they aired. And I was like, geez, still nothing. So I don't know. Hopefully 96 will do better for us. But yeah, I'm not finding anything for these episodes, discussion or anything. And we talked about checking out iTunes. So I went back and I checked out at least the American iTunes. And we haven't had any new reviews since 2015. And they were all Sliders reviews, basically.
Aww.
So they were all the ones that we've already had. So we would love some more reviews. Hint, hint, Zoomway forum participants.
I know. Let people out there know if you're enjoying our rewatch or you're rewatching along with us. Just, jump on iTunes, give us 4 or 5 stars, write something nice related to our coverage of Lois and Clark. It'd be great to know you guys out there are enjoying it, and it's the easiest way you can help out the show. All right, well, next week's issue, we'll be discussing Ultra Woman and Chip Off the Old Clark. Now,
Yes.
Ultra Woman, I remember this one for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the title right there gives it all away. I remember liking this episode quite a bit when I first saw it, and neat to see Lois as a superhero. And I think, if I recall correctly, this one has 2 guest stars that were pretty big back in the late 80s, early 90s in movies and things like that.
I've kind of been waiting for this one, really.
Yeah.
This is one that I just have vivid memories of really enjoying. So, yeah, hopefully it holds up.
And then we got, now Chip Off the Old Clark, I don't know. I want to say it has something to do with, like, someone being related to Clark, but I don't know how that could be because he's from Krypton. Doesn't have any real family. So I don't know, something with a relation maybe, or someone who likes Clark, like as like a guy, wants to be just like him, and tags along with him. I have no idea.
Like a wannabe Robin or something.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Who was Superman's partner, though? Does he have a Robin?
No, he doesn't. Never really did. I mean, there was
Superboy.
Yeah, there was Superboy, but I mean, like, he was Superboy. Like, he was Superboy, and then, like, first it was Superman, and then they went back and they made a Superboy, but that was supposed to be the Adventures of Superman when he was a boy, and that's what it actually said on the titles, like, Superboy, the Adventures of Superman when he was a boy. So just to make it clear that this is not a separate guy, this is actually Superman as a boy. In the comics, Batman and Robin would often come to town back in the 50s or 60s, and they would team up with Superman, and usually who was paired up with Superman was Jimmy. So I don't know, maybe this is going to be a Jimmy episode, perhaps?
Jimmy gets superpowers somehow and becomes his sidekick. That'd be cool.
Maybe. I was just thinking maybe he would just be hanging out a lot. I didn't even
just hanging out with the Superman.
Yeah,
for
like,
no reason.
Well, no, not
hey,
even
Superman,
that. But just,
come over get some pizza.
But maybe even, like, since it says Chip Off the Old Clark, I'm thinking maybe it's a more Clark-centric episode where Jimmy hangs out with him, because I don't know, just thinking that they'd be like, pals, like they mentioned they went to the movies and everything.
Well, we'll find out, I guess.
We will find out next week, because that is it for this issue of the Rewatch Podcast. You can keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/Rewatch Podcast or facebook.com/Lois and Clark Rewatch. Don't forget, you can follow the show over on Twitter at Rewatch Pod, or visit our webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has links to some of our favorite sites there, such as zoomway.net, the folc.wiki.com, and the Superman homepage.com. And of course, we've also got links to our archive of film rewatch episodes.
And as always, you can write us an email or record a voice message and send it to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. And if you've enjoyed the show, as I mentioned before, please consider giving us a rate and review on iTunes. It really helps out the show if you just give us 4 or 5 stars and write something nice.
Yeah.
We'd really appreciate it. And if you want to really go above and beyond and support the Rewatch Podcast, you can head over to patreon.com/rewatchpodcast and make a monthly contribution as little as $1. And of course, we're also up on YouTube, so just search Rewatch Podcast and subscribe today. Okay, well, thank you for joining me for 2 more episodes, Tom.
Of course.
And I would just say, until next time, don't look so shocked. Or, on second thought, do.
We gotta fly.
The Rewatch Podcast is not associated with Warner Brothers Television, ABC, Gangbuster Films Incorporated, or Roundelay Productions.
Don't believe everything you see on TV.
The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes as provided in United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use.
Let's get legal on this.
Music provided by Kevin McCloud at incompetech.com.
Great shades of Elvis.
Copyright 2016, The Rewatch Podcast.
Where are your beepers? We'll be in touch.
Hi, Rewatch Podcast listeners. I'm Corey.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Nathan.
First off, let me say that we have all had a blast doing the Rewatch Podcast. Every week, we put out another episode for free for you. And although we enjoy these discussions with each other, we truly do this for you guys out there in podcast land.
That's right, Corey. But we are here today to tell you about Patreon. Every week, there are costs involved in podcasting about film and television, including hosting and bandwidth charges, our own personal internet usage, and film or show rentals and purchases. So, we're asking you to become a Patreon supporter.
If you can afford as little as $1 to throw our way per month, it would really help us keep the lights on. And if you want to send $100 our way every month, we wouldn't turn that down either. But it's your choice, and we appreciate the support you bring.
As always, we strive to bring you the best quality shows we can create, and we hope that you enjoy them. So head on over to patreon.com/rewatchpodcast to become one of our patrons and show your support for the Rewatch Podcast.
And if we get enough patrons, we may even be able to produce exclusive content just for the supporters in the form of simply getting episodes before the main feed release, or even bonus film discussion episodes as a thank you for your support. The website again is patreon.com/rewatchpodcast.
Thanks, everyone.